You're listening to the Salty Sex Cast with Mariah and friends. Minimize the fear. Expand your awareness.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Mariah here with the Salty Sex Cast. I have a full Zoom room. I have Brady, our wonderful super producer. I have Jason, who was on a past episode. That was episode 84. Polywog is that title. So if you wanted to go back and look and listen, might really help make today's episode make a lot of sense. I have Jason's spouse, Maggie, in his frame with him, and then his girlfriend, Brittany. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's going to be really fun because this was a whole year ago. I met Jason virtually, and we were able to talk about just the starts of his non-monogamy journey and some of the struggles it was to be a guy trying to find people online that weren't spamming, just communication, all these, very typical pieces of someone's journey as they're navigating non-monogamy. Maybe not the first time, or at least just new to it. So, but Jason, feel free, update us what has happened in a year in a nutshell, and we'll dig a little bit deeper throughout the episode.
A lot has transpired. There was a woman that I was speaking to during that particular episode that we're friends but don't talk very much anymore. I have dated several other women, gotten into a relationship with a couple, and those have fallen out. But now celebrating almost 6 months with Brittany. Next week will be 6 months, and truly excited about that, especially because Brittany and Maggie get along so well that we've kind of formed our own little triad, the three of us, and that's gone really well as well. So there's been quite a lot of stuff to go over for sure.
Yeah, so a triad unfolding, some polycule things we can explore. When what does that mean for you when you say polycule, but also, maybe what's the typical definition, what people might recognize, and all of those things. So you said Maggie and Brittany have also kind of been able to connect. Maggie, tell me a little bit about that journey.
Oh gosh, I don't know if it was so much a journey or if Jason and Brittany went out one night and I met up with them, and Brittany and I hit it off and kissed before we left, and it was just, after that was amazing connection. Brittany's a really great partner. She's very respectful, loving, attentive, caring. And we just get along. I mean, we just click. The three of us just click so well together, which makes it super easy for my husband to go off and be with Brittany alone. And, it's just been amazing. A really great connection.
Love that. Brittany, I'd love to hear a little bit from you. How has this journey unfolded for you inside relationship with Jason and then Maggie as well?
Well, I primarily date Jason, but from our very first date, I think Jason and I, towards the end of our date, Maggie met up with us at a bar, and I ended up kissing her at the end of the night, and while we were walking out, and we all went our separate ways, and it was just, we all just instantly clicked together. It wasn't work or anything. It wasn't oh, I have to get along with his wife or anything. It was just oh, she's there and she's amazing and we get along and this is a great vibe. And we just took things slowly as friends, and it kind of just panned out perfectly.
Love to hear that. Such a great thing. Brady, do you have to jump in?
I love that because it's one of the things that when Jamie and I are talking to somebody new, what's important to us is that it sort of is organic. It's not work. And so that was cool to hear. That's all I wanted to share about it.
I think
Yeah,
that's
and
the
this is
most
actually, sorry, this is actually my second triad. And the first time I was in a triad with a married couple, it was horrible. It was a shit show and it was a lot of work. It was really hard. It was a lot of drama. And that's about the same time I met Maggie and Jason. And I was like, things are not hard with them. It's not work with them. They're not bringing me into problems. They're not like, they have good boundaries. They're healthy. Like, and I just kind of spawned over to them because I was just attracted to their whole relationship, their whole vibe, their whole love for each other.
That's totally cool. I get a kick out of that because when it's not going well, it can be very stressful. I think like one of the worst arguments I've ever been involved in with my wife was when we were with somebody else, and then I felt cornered, and I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I did enjoy that relationship, but that like little bump to get over, that like first fight was like, oh, I thought it was hard arguing with one person.
Everyone laughs on this because they all know that feeling when it's like, oh, on all fronts.
Now I'm
When
getting
you almost
ganged
feel
up
like
on.
they gain up on you
Mhm.
together, right? And so either inadvertently or just sometimes, communication comes out. So I'm hearing a lot of healthy things you all are doing to make it enjoyable. And 6 months is a long time to have a multiple relationship that feels healthy. That's great. At least in the world that of polyamory, other things, 6 months can seem like a long time, or it can seem like it's still brand new and you're still navigating a lot of things. So I'm hearing boundaries, communication, and the ability to still show a lot of love and attention for one another in different ways. Tell me how that kind of continues, because I know every day my needs can change typically. So how do you all stay healthy with those needs being met?
So I obviously I'm huge into communication, obviously. And I really try hard, right? Compersion has actually been difficult for me. This whole thing has been more difficult for me than it has been for Jason. So for me, it's really important. I am finding, and I feel like it changes all the time. Like when we first started this, I'm nowhere near where I was even a year ago. Okay. But I want Jason to be happy, right? I can't give him everything he wants and needs, right? And so but Brittany, she fulfills truly what I can't. She really does. So it's super important for communication, for him to have his time. I mean, and I'll just put it out there. Like, I think that they probably got into their first little tiffy last week, right? A little thing. And of course I'm like, okay, what do I do? Right? Like, and I just stayed out of it. I heard him because of course he's going to talk to me, because I'm his wife. And I said, just give her time and make sure she knows, reassure her that she's loved, that she's wanted, that she's needed. And it just goes like that. I need that as well. Right. So this man actually has to do all the work because he's trying to please two women. and so but obviously it's just very much trying to be reassuring, loving, attentive, communicative. Obviously, if you feel like you communicated enough, you have to communicate more. So
I completely agree with you. I also have to say that like the fighting part, this is like the healthiest I've ever fought with somebody in my life. I swear. It's like when those two are having like a tiff about something, anything, I'm not involved in it at all. Even if it's about me, I will never hear about it. Like that's between them and their relationship, has nothing to do with my part of the triad. And like the same with Jason and I, we got into it last week. We had a little thing. Of course, he's going to tell Maggie about it. We have a no secrets between spouses kind of vibe, but like he just handled it, and we all worked it out. We all communicated. We all knew what each other needed and just kind of worked it out from there. It's not like an unfair fight. It's just like kind of just rough communication you have to work through.
I agree with both wholeheartedly. It's been a little bit of a struggle for me as far as what is communicated and what is not. I have to find that happy balance. But one thing that really has helped me to grow with polyamory is having two partners and being able to understand the communication and the needs that one has really actually helps reflect on the other. And so it helps strengthen both relationships, because I can see where someone is needing something, and it's like, if I'm providing that to them, are the other ones getting it as well, or do they need that as well? And so it's really nice to have that that balance there. One of the things that really excites me about our triad is the fact that we can kind of read each other a little bit. There was a time where both Brittany and I kind of had a down day. Both of us kind of were just feeling blah, and didn't really communicate it with anybody else. But Maggie could sense that between me and Brittany, and that we were both feeling that way. And she reached out to Brittany and said, "Hey, Brittany, can you babysit Jason?" And literally was like, "Jason, go up and see Brittany." So it's kind of a joke that we use that babysit term, but it's come up so many times where Maggie literally will call up Brittany and say, "Hey, Brittany, take Jason for a while." So that's been really, really awesome for me.
What a wonderful way to recognize, hey, I do recognize you have a need. Even if I am unable to fulfill it, I know I have that trust built with someone else, and I can say, hey, tapping you in. It's pretty awesome. What maybe are some of the pieces that you have learned, or tough lessons? We know it is not all roses all the time. Yes, you'll have some spats, and it kind of sounds like it's a lot of just, communication, either misunderstandings or anything else. But Jason, specifically for you, what have you learned?
Aside from communication, boundaries is a huge one. It's as Brittany said, it's having that boundary to say, if there is a fight between Maggie and I, Brittany doesn't hear about it. I love her, I respect her, but I'm not going to make her that confidant where I'm going to tell her something that's going on that might pit her against Maggie, or, her against me, or anything like that. That boundary is there and set where that will never be talked about. And that boundary and others kind of similar to that, where it's, there's a line drawn that is communicated up front, and respected. That's huge for me. And, in a monogamous relationship, there is no boundaries. You just got to throw everything out. There should be. But it's one of those things that I never really noticed until, in poly, that it's like, oh yeah, yeah, that should be there.
For me, obviously, if this lifestyle forces communication, right? And you can either choose good or bad communication, but it forces communication. I don't know. I respect, how do I say, when Jason was talking about not sharing with, it's not that I don't want to share with Brittany. Like, I think I love her enough to say, hey, Jason and I are having a hard day, have him go see Brittany. And so I love her enough to involve her in us all, right? The hard times too. But it's just understanding, right, that I'm not going to sit there and throw my husband under the bus at her, right? Because that will force her to choose, right? So it's not, I'll definitely tell her, hey, Jason, I can't deal with him today. Please take him, or whatever, right? But I've learned this forces communication. Assumptions are bad. Assumptions are bad.
Yeah.
So I very much did you ask? Is it true, not true? Is it real, not real? So assumptions are horrible. I've learned. That's definitely reassurance. Validation. Validation is literally my lifesaver. So that's huge. I need validation. I think most women need validation, and that's important.
I think the biggest thing I've learned is probably that, and the hardest lesson too, is that fair is not equal. Especially coming into a relationship with a married couple, things are not going to be equal. I'm not going to be treated like the main confidant. And it's a little bit hierarchical, but I don't like calling it like that because it doesn't feel like that. Like, it's definitely like, it doesn't feel like I'm just an add-on to their relationship. It feels like I'm an equal part of the relationship, and they both treat me very fairly. Sometimes I get like, when Jason goes out with another person who's not Maggie, I get like a little sting, I get a little bit of jealousy, and Maggie kind of puts me in check all the time and is like, check the facts, Brittany, like, he loves you, like, you need to calm down, like, and we bounce off each other like that. And it's really great. And yeah, I think the hardest thing to learn was that, I'm not always going to be treated equally, but that's not my place in the relationship. I'm always going to be treated fairly, and I can always count on them to treat me fairly. So that is a huge line of trust for me too with them.
Equitable love, is that something? Can we define that here? What equitable love looks like. I'm glad you really put that into perspective. It could feel maybe hierarchical, how some people can maybe draw it out in their mind, but it's not for the power. It's more of either the energy or what's already established. I saw one time someone draw it over like a bubble, like Venn diagram, where the married couple just overlapped more than the third that came in later, because they've built more, they've had more history. There's just a little bit more connection there. And so it just overlaps slightly more. And so there's going to be more energy into that. So I thought that was the best way to visually display that difference. But just doesn't mean that it's, again, power. So Brady, did you have anything to add? I saw you come off mute for a second.
No, I liked the way Brittany talked about it. Like, it kind of has a hierarchy, but it's really not a hierarchy. And it's just more of like a melding of talents and skills and availability. And you sort of find that balance where everybody sort of like melds, and you find your place. And like, that might be a smaller part of the pyramid, but it is, if you take away a side of the pyramid, it doesn't matter if it's a small part, right? It's almost like a three-legged bar stool. If you pull one of the legs off, it's worthless. But when you find that person where like everything kind of just connects and it works, it doesn't necessarily have to be you're not necessarily putting all your weight on that part of the bar stool. But without it, things wouldn't be as stable. And like, because that was my first sort of polyish relationship. The girl that we were dating was sort of like, the equality. I'm not feeling equality, and it was like, how could you? Like, I can't even legally marry you. I mean, you're so it was kind of tough. But I like the way that Brittany put it, and that's all I wanted to comment on. Oh, and then Maggie said something about communication. If you think you're communicating, or if you think you're communicating enough, communicate more. And it made me laugh because I thought about what Dr. Drew Pinsky used to say about lube for anal sex all the time. And if you think you have enough, use more.
Good. I wanted to speak a little to the hierarchy, because that is hard for me, right? Because if it's truthful, if we're being truthful, there is hierarchy. If I'm going to be honest, but I don't use it in that way, for sure. I try not to. I mean, how could I not? I've been married to this man for almost 20 years. He is my best friend, my soulmate, my everything, right? I've got 2 kids with this man. I've got trauma and drama and happiness and joy and frustration. And I hate him. I love him. How could I not? Right? I mean, so to me, it's important that my partners know he does come first. He has to come first for me. That's just how I operate. I have to use Paul. I have to approach Polly that way, as I have this man and he's first for me. If something happened, if I needed to leave this lifestyle, if he's first for me. And it does not mean I love my partners less, or it just means that, if there was a family thing, if my kids weren't, Mom, I don't know if I can, this is hard, or, then okay, right? If we had to step back, what I'm saying is, I would have to step back with him. Does that make sense?
I think that totally makes sense. And it doesn't just apply to some of the big things. It can be something as simple as like an inside joke that you've had for like Jamie and I have been together for, she's going to kill me, but like, I think 6 years. And so maybe more, but we have some inside jokes that are pretty hilarious, and I will just randomly spout them out, and somebody else is in the room and just sort of like, I don't get it. And that can, inadvertently sting. And I think sometimes people have to embrace that sometimes some of that stuff is going to sting a little bit, and that's okay.
And then you get a person like me where I just find it fucking adorable. Like, they have these little nicknames like Pickle and Sprite, and I like, when the first time they called each other that, I was like, that is the cutest thing I've ever heard. And they told me the whole story behind it. But yeah, it's like, I'm 6 months versus a 20-year life together, children together, everything together. Like, I'm not expecting equality, and I know that their relationship comes first, and I don't think that's unfair at all.
Brittany, you also said something earlier about the sting. We know that no relationship on this earth has, goes without some jealousy, right? Even from sibling to sibling, anything, there's going to be some type of jealousy. So I think that's the big myth that kind of outsiders who aren't part of this world or have experienced this world think like, oh, they're just not jealous people. They can handle all of it. They find ways to navigate through it. So starting with you, Jason, I'd love to hear what are some things that maybe trigger some jealousy for you, and how have you navigated through those? We'll kind of make our way through the group.
This one's a really interesting one, because we actually had this conversation. It reflects back, just like Brittany said, when I'm out with someone else and I tell Brittany about it, there's a sting for her. The reverse also applies with me. If she tells me that she's out with someone else, it stings me a little bit too. But what I told her is, yeah, you can tell me you're going out with anybody, but don't tell me anything else. I don't want to hear anything more. Tell me the guy's name, and that's cool. That's enough for me. But I don't want to know anything else. And Maggie is kind of the same way, but she's kind of gotten into a groove, to where the jealousy isn't there, because she has her couple that she's seeing. There was a little bit of a zing with this other guy that she just had been out with, but she'd been talking to him for like a year. So that wasn't there as much. But I've learned through, I've been reading Polysecure, or listening to it, and knowing how our relationship dynamics are and our attachments styles has really made that more clear to me, as far as navigating what kind of zing of jealousy there is, and recognizing the tinge of that jealousy, and then going, okay, but how can I build on that? Knowing that there's that zing, why am I feeling that? Is it because I'm being left out, or is it more than that? And like Maggie said, what is truth? What is real? Playing that out when jealousy occurs. That's how you navigate through it. How I do anyway. is knowing how those feelings are and what's really the cause of it and how I should be feeling.
I never thought I was a jealous person. Never. And then this lifestyle started, and my jealousy is different. My jealousy comes out as anger. Yeah, I become a bitch. I hope you can cuss on this show. I get angry. And then it just spirals from there, right? So and truly what helps me the most, let me just have my meltdown and validate me. Just validate me. I could be totally off my rocker. I could be crazy. Please just tell me for a minute that it's okay. I'm okay. And then let me come down from that, right? My emotions are high. But like Jason said, how I handle it is having that moment, but what's truth and what's fact? That's what I've had to, what's the truth about, this jealousy, for instance, the thought is, Jason doesn't love me anymore. Right. Well, what's the truth or fact behind that? And so I very much have to talk myself down to and rely on that. But usually I have to have my angry moment first.
That's funny, Maggie. You said something, and I just realized that I never realized I'm the same exact way. It's so like I never realized like when I get that tinge of jealousy, I need to have my moment and validation, and those are my two most important things. And I never realized that until Jason started letting me have that moment and started giving me that validation, just like he does with Maggie. And so I'm like, yes, this is what I need in this relationship. This is healthy. Like this is. Thank you for not running away and like just letting me have that for a minute, because it's real feelings and you need to feel your feelings sometimes.
It sounds like Maggie's done a really good job of training Jason. That's what I just heard.
Very, very much. And I'd say she's trained me a bit as well. Like I've been through quite a therapy journey over the last year, and Maggie, like with her career and everything, she like has not been a therapist to me, but she has been like a big support partner in my journey. She like reassures everything that I've learned from therapy. She really supports me, and like when I'm having moments and stuff, she just treats me the same exact way and is like, check the facts, know your feelings. He doesn't hate you, like he's still in love with you, like reality check for a minute. And it just works with me. And it just, maybe that's the whole reason why this works so well. I don't know.
That's quite funny that you say that, Brady, because being together for 20 years, right? Listen, he don't listen to me. But I will tell you, and Brittany can confirm, and if you need to take it out, that's fine. But we make that joke all the time. I trained him well, especially in his oral skills. They're really good.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I honestly kind of like the silent laughter. Like this could be a new format for stand-up comedy. It's just seeing everybody's camera kind of vibrate. It just makes me laugh.
Oh, I'll laugh out loud for you, Brady, anytime.
So, one of the things that I wanted to just mention, Maggie, I think you would get a kick. I think everybody here would get a kick out of this, but Maggie, I think because of the work that you're already doing, you should check out the book, Sex at Dawn. I'd be curious to hear from you after you read that book, because it changed the way that I think about things.
I am down for anything that has to do with sex, truly.
You check it out. Like it's really good.
Thank you.
I forgot the question. Am I supposed to answer the question?
Brady, I'd love to hear your opinion because you have dabbled in this as well. So I was saying, what are some jealousy triggers for you and how do you navigate through them?
I get so overwhelmed with compersion that I think that I very rarely feel jealousy when I see my wife bonding with somebody in such a unique way. And I think usually I'll get jealous if they go to like a restaurant that I wanted to go to, or they go see like a comedy show because I love comedy. Like I'm more jealous that I was like, couldn't be there. And that was part of my role was to not be there this time. And so that can kind of be a frustration, but I don't know that I've ever felt like really jealous with Jamie and other people.
Yeah, that's honest truth.
Not that I'm aware of. And then I think Jamie does a really good job of like snuggling a lot when I see her next. And then I'm just like, oh, I get my cuddles. So I guess it's okay. I missed out on that really cool comedy show that I would have gone to.
You know what I've had to do a lot of, and like I work in the community, right? So, but I hear this often in a struggle with polyamory is why is he, oh, so we don't go out or we don't go to a comedy show, but you're going to go there with your partner, right? Oh, so you want to go to right? And that obviously is difficult. And so I hear that quite often, but it's once again 20-year marriage, we stopped talking about our wants and needs, right? What we stopped communicating what was important and not important. And so this has forced us once again to start. I mean, our marriage is stronger, I feel, than ever. And it's more like, oh, well, okay, I get that, you know, and this is just an example, but you know, okay, I get that you want to take, you know, Brittany to Lagoon or whatever. We've never gone to Lagoon, so we need to, right? Okay, make a date or, you know, whatever. So it's just making sure that you're nurturing each relationship. But once again, it's, I can't fulfill all of those wants and needs. You know, Jason loves to go to a Poly cocktails, and I'm like, absolutely not. Please take Brittany to Poly cocktails, right? But it's just understanding. It's so much communication. Holy crap, the communication is ridiculous.
Well, it's funny you talked about Poly cocktails because I think that the other thing before I get into that, my truth is not necessarily the only truth too, because I know that my wife has experienced jealousy, and I've had to validate and respect that. And we dealt with it, and it was just a matter of communication, I think, at the time. And once we had understanding, it was no longer an issue. But I have to laugh at the Poly cocktails because the first person that Jamie and I were kind of like serious about when we first started talking, she was into all the same kind of foods that I like that my wife cannot stand. So I started out calling her my food mistress. And it always made me chuckle, but
You would, Brady. You would. Everyone needs a food mistress. I feel like I need a food buddy, a foodie. You know,
That's just way too funny because Jason always says Maggie and I are exact opposites, and Jason and I are like the same person. We like all the same things, and Maggie likes all the opposite things, and so it's like a little mix of that.
that's so
Well,
funny you say that. Go ahead, Brady.
I was going to say, Jamie will tell you that she is the opposite of girls that I'm interested in. Jamie is very sound, like healthy, psychologically. She's just like very calm, like very anchoring person. And then I just sort of like, well, she looks crazy. I dig this. Like, this is a wild person. Oh man, I'll bet she hasn't talked to her parents in years.
Yeah. Brady. Oh my God. Make mental health a joke. Of course you would.
Jason spotted my daddy issues from miles away. It's totally fine. We get it. We have the same dynamic.
Anybody who knows what I'm talking about would laugh.
I do know. We know. That was another question I'd love to hear about is, personality wise, are there any clashing personality traits that you really have to navigate through, or is it really decently balanced?
So Brittany's absolutely, Jason and I are nothing alike. Nothing. I can't think of one thing we have in common except polyamory now. And even that's not all the way in common.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. That's right. That's true. But we're just so different. So, right. Once again, it's like, holy crap, go find somebody, right, that can fulfill these needs I can't give you. Right. I don't want to give you, right? And it took 20 years to figure that out. Personality wise, what I've really learned this is obviously mental health perspective though, right? Is I have worked so hard to understand that perception is reality. I've worked so hard to accept that this is where people are in their lives. I don't care about personality. I don't care if it jives or doesn't jive. It's truly accepting where a person is, and you can move on with them with boundaries, or you can move on without them and whatever, or you just don't do an accepting and you're just going to stay stuck. So personality, like I said, it's important that I can connect. I've learned that I do better if I have a connection with his partners. I have learned that. It depends on the level of connection, right? I love what we have with Brittany. It's my absolute favorite. Okay. So, and the same with the other triad I'm in, right? It's just, that works for me personality wise. I have to understand that I'm not perfect, and I have to call myself out on my own bullshit, right? Oh, is this a personality conflict? I just think that's an excuse a lot. And I don't mean that rudely. I think that personalities can be conflicting, but is it more about your own bullshit? Does that make sense? Oh, sorry, babe. Go ahead.
So, as far as what Maggie kind of basically said what I would say as far as personality wise, is that as Brady had mentioned, Maggie is my anchor, my voice of reason, I'll throw it out there, my vanilla. She's self-proclaimed vanilla through the phone. She just has a different what vanilla is. But
Jason,
Brittany,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can you start that sentence once more? Your sound keeps going in and out. Is that just my earphones? Brittany's hearing the same thing? Okay.
So Maggie is very much my vanilla. She is that base, the rock, the foundation, as it were. And personality wise, and I even said this the first time, the Polywog episode, I'm looking for someone who is not Maggie. I have gone beyond the quiz, although I think I did give Brittany the quiz, and Brittany nailed it, especially on like Labyrinth. Brittany and I, we're Labyrinth soulmates, and little things like that have really kind of made me gravitate to Brittany more. We just got done shopping for a homecoming dress for my daughter. Her very first date is homecoming. It's in 2 weeks. And as a dad, I'm freaking out. And I told Brittany that we were going to go dress shopping, and that we did find a dress, and it was green. And Brittany said, but not a real green dress, that's cruel, citing a music lyric. And I fell off my chair laughing because she had said that. And then I turned to Maggie and I said, you won't believe what Brittany just said. And Maggie just looked at me like, what is she talking about? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that Brittany and I share that's, that Maggie doesn't. And just little things like that really kind of just add to the dynamic of getting my needs fulfilled with Brittany that Maggie can't or doesn't want to, or whatever the case might be. Vanilla, like I said, Brittany is very much the fish food, the rocky road, the everything that I'm not getting from the vanilla. So
I'm a freak. You can say it. You can just call me a freak. It's fine. I know I'm freaky deaky.
I had a really funny moment with when Jamie and I were dating Mia. We were driving down the road, and Mia was having like a really serious conversation on the phone, and it sounded like like girlfriend drama, like friends, not dating. And then all of a sudden she's just like, I gotta go, and she puts the phone down and she like grabs the wheel and is like, pull over. So I pull over, and she like jumps out of the truck. So I jump out with her, and she's like, the sprinklers are on at the church, let's run through them. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go and we run through the sprinklers. We get back in the truck soaking wet. And the next day, Jamie and I are driving down the same road, and I pointed out to her, and I was like, the sprinklers are on at the church. And Jamie's like, it seems like a waste of water.
That's the best way I could hear, you know. I completely agree. When I was in my throuple, you know, we had those moments where it was like, oh, have at it. I am gonna have my night in, or I get to go out and not feel like I have to entertain someone because this isn't their scene. It's a really nice way to, again, get those needs filled without, you know, you're a burden on someone at some point. Like they're really going out of their way to fill those needs. And so it's obviously we've had monogamy for a very long time. People can do it in a helpful way. But this is another great option for those who are just really struggling to meet the other's needs and are open to allowing someone else to come in. That's kind of a little piece of that compersion, you know, excited for their connection, their love, their experiences, without not necessarily feeling like you have to be involved or it has to be there for you as well. Go ahead, Brady.
I really love the way you put it, because it can come in layers too. Like it's not an all in. So that's why Maggie talked about at one point, not a big fan of labels. And so I say that I'm monogamish, we're poly-ish. And the reason is that like sometimes I just need to go have crawfish at a seafood restaurant that I know my wife will not eat, and I don't want to do it alone. And Jamie can be happy for me that I found my food mistress, you know? And so like you can find those different little levels. And it doesn't have to be an all-in relationship or physical or whatever. It can just like, there's fulfillment ways to fulfill yourself and allow your partner to be fulfilled, as long as it's consensual and ethical.
Absolutely. But let's not skip over the real goodness of what polyamory can provide, is that fun sexual piece. So Maggie, I love how you said that you have Jason trained in his oral skills, and he's been able to share that with Brittany by the look of her face on her face. So what are some other things have you been able to either pick up or really enjoy without going too far? Obviously, you know, you share as much as you're comfortable with, but it's a really fun piece of it. I think it just throws in a whole new flavor and experience in the bedroom.
Okay, first of all, real quickly, since we're talking about flavor, Brittany, I want you to respond first to what Mariah just said, and then we'll have Maggie jump in.
I was going to let you take the lead because I don't know how much you guys want out there versus I don't care. Like, I'll tell them everything. You don't care? Okay. So, Jason's first three-way, for sure. That's when I found out that Maggie had trained him so well in the oral skills. And then I found out from her where that came from. So let's just say that. Yeah, they're both very skilled.
I love her. She's so okay. So, you know, I don't know if Jason told you, but when we first got into this whole thing, our marriage was struggling. It was struggling. We were on the verge of being over. And of course, we didn't jump into it with marriage problems, right? We started therapy, but it was then that I was like, I brought it to my therapist and I said, I miss being with women. I don't know if I can live this life anymore and just stay married to my husband and not be with women. I'm 20 years I've been without, and I'm totally bisexual. So then, you know, bringing it to him, and Jason was very open and receptive. And of course, you know, I can't just go be with women. So that's not fair. Right. But the sexual part of this, has been quite an experience. I've always been a very confident person, good self-esteem, good confidence. And boy, does that change when you're like, oh, I have to sleep with other people now. Oh, right. So it's been interesting for sure. I find myself super open with women. I can get between a woman's legs, no problem. But a man's, it's a little, right? I find myself a little more difficult, right? I'm like, oh, I have to be, oh man. So it's a little harder. And honestly, there's so many different aspects of this, true, but I find I'm very much a giver. I love to give. I could do threesomes all day long and be okay as long as I'm giving, right? Interesting. So, but it's been, and our sexual relationship has, oh man, exploded and gotten so much better. And I hope this isn't too much to share, but we just did a threesome Saturday and it was so amazing. It was just so amazing. We just had such a good connection. It just flows. And if we're in the mood, great. If we're not, this one's always in the mood, of course. We've definitely let him down before. He's had his moments of being let down, but it just flows and it's just beautiful. And the sex is definitely fun for sure. Okay, sorry. That was a lot.
And there has even been times where like I was like, you guys, I'm not in the mood, but I just want to watch you guys, and they'll still just like, they got a king bed and I just like hanging out watching, like, and it's a good time. It's like a no kind of pressure, no rules kind of thing. Everybody's open, everybody's comfortable with each other. And I have tried a lot of new things since becoming poly for sure. Like I don't know if I mentioned, but I've been separated for about like 6 months. I'm going through a divorce from my monogamous life. And I honestly thought my sex drive was gone. I was just like, oh, I'm almost 30. I'm on antidepressants. It's fine. It's just gone. And then I started having sex with different people and I was like, oh, like what? Who is this person? Because this person is not the person I was 6 months ago. Not at all. Like I have the highest sex drive out of anybody I know. I'm a crazy freak. I want to try everything in bed. I want to do it all. There's like literally just tell me what it is and we'll do it, like kind of person now. And I never thought I would be like that 6 months ago. And it's all because of poly. Like when you're with different people doing different things, especially when you're with a married couple who's like opening things up, like Jason's first three-way, it was just a beautiful like moment of love between the three of us. And it was just like such a wonderful thing for all of us to share together and explore together all these new things. It's just a whole sexual awakening as well. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
Jason, it's got to be fun to be complimented on your oral sex skills. Like, I love it when my wife is like, hey, wait till you try this. And then like points at me.
Yeah. So funny story about that is on one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, I had posted the little blurb about me, you know, so that people could get to know me or whatever. And Brittany was the first one to respond to that. And she said, I will be the first to say his oral skills are the best. Right in that thread. And I was just like, wow, that's thank you very much, you know. But as far as like learning and what I've experienced as far as sex goes is let's call a spade a spade. There was a lot of religious sexual trauma in my life, you know, just monogamy is the way to go, you know, no sex unless you're married, all that kind of stuff. I had 2 sexual partners before becoming poly. That was my ex-wife and my current wife. And so, and coming from the religious background that I was, it was, you know, missionary vanilla kind of how that goes. And when we kind of opened up our marriage, we discussed the sexual part of things. And Maggie had kind of said to me, you know what, I did all this in my younger days. And so I know I'm vanilla. I don't need to do any of that other stuff. I've tried it already. And I basically put it to her that I said, well, it's going to get freaky up in here because I have not. And so literally I'm like checking stuff off, let's try this. Or if someone suggests something, I'm like, you know what? I've never done that. So hell yeah, we'll try that. So I've been to BDSM parties where there've been like 12 people there and implements of various torture or otherwise, that I've been able to experience because I just said, hey, let's try that, let's go experience that. And so it's been really awesome for me to be able to experience those things and to find out what I truly like that I've never experienced before. And being so open to being able to talk about sex, because that was never a thing either, to talk about it. And, just recently coming up with a birthday wish list, and being able to discuss that with Brittany, was pretty awesome to be able to do that and have that conversation with her. And, now it's just a question of the day that it's going to happen.
You're totally jumping around here. In other words, Jason, and this is something, right, that once again, I can't meet all his wants and needs. He's wanting to explore the BDSM thing. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I cannot do that. I cannot do that for you. And so in other words, what he's talking about is him and Brittany, a BDSM relationship if they want to explore that. And I'm grateful for that because I can't give him that.
So that's funny because I have experience as a dom, and the girl that we were dating is really into BDSM, like so much so that even with experience, I was kind of like, oh, this is borderline scary. But and I just remember Jamie being like, yeah, I don't know if I could tolerate that. And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, why do you think we've never talked about it? I know you wouldn't tolerate that. So one of the things that I loved, the first time that Jamie and I fooled around with somebody else was when our partner, she collapsed in like an orgasm puddle after a round of amazing sex. And like Jamie like looks at me and then just like high five. And so like I high-fived her and I was like, yeah, we did this together. What a team. And that was like as soon as that other person left, I was like, yeah, we are a fucking badass couple. And it like put a little gas in the tank about just being like on a team. It was really cool.
Everyone's nodding. They can all relate. Like, isn't it super fun to like tag team a little bit in the bedroom? I do think like we need more sex position, like a sex position Bibles for 3, instead of just for couples. Cause aren't you like so surprised? You're like, damn, we just did that. We had legs everywhere. And like, it's just really it's creativity in the bedroom is the best way I can refer to it. No, this is really fun just to get to hear a lot about, what you all have experienced together. I wanted to take out just a couple moments to kind of go full circle again. Jason, compared to last year, when you came on the podcast, you really were talking about the difficulty of finding someone, of talking, and, that it just so much of your energy was just trying to find a connection, or it was, you feel like you're doing really good with somebody and they fall off, or it's a bot or anything if it's online. What are some tips for those who are starting to go explore and online date, or even on some of the polyamory Facebook groups or other groups like that?
That's a really good one. So what I've kind of gathered from all of this and the journey that I've been on is, first of all, you need to put yourself out there. You really do. And expect that you're going to get the stupid bots, and you're going to get the people that all they want to do is talk, and making plans and them falling through or whatever. But Maggie's couple, the husband, we were talking one day, and he pointed something out to me that I didn't really think that I did, but he said, you put yourself out there. You don't wait or anything. You just say, hey, here I am, take me through who I am. In any one of the Facebook groups, if someone, if there's a attractive woman that posts, her profile, I'll be there to say, hey, you look great or whatever, and just make my presence known. And funny enough, as we went to Poly Cocktails this last Saturday, and as we were walking in, another guy was coming from the other direction that I'd never met before. And he looked at me and he said a name, and I said, no, that's not me. But then when we got in and we had our IDs checked at the bar, he said, oh no, you're Jason. And I turned to him and I'm like, have we met? And he's like, no, but I've seen you on the poly groups. And I was like, okay, well, obviously people are getting to know who I am. And I think that makes things a lot easier, because you get vetted by the guys just as much as you do the women in these groups. And if the guy is talking back and forth with you on a thread, women get to read that and they can see your personality come through. So to me, what I've learned most of all is getting yourself out there, showing your personality, and don't be afraid ever.
And I think from a woman's standpoint, right? Because, right, what your podcast that you did and how hard it is for men, I think patience, if you have patience, right? I move super slow. I move so slow. It's crazy. And so my couple that I see, him and I were friends for months. And then we did a date with the wife. And then I dated them a couple of times. And finally, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later. And so I move slow, but I'm very much are you going to be good to me, or are you just looking to have sex with me and then you're out? Right. I mean, and that might be okay for some people too. Like there's times and places for one night stands. There's, but I'm very much, have patience. I think that he finally, after some time and working out the kinks and having the patience and being a good guy, right? Showing these people that you're not just some jerk out there, that started to matter too.
So one of the things that I experienced early on was guys were super disrespectful towards me and my wife, like right off the bat. And they were acting like I was interviewing a replacement. And I was always like, what is this attitude you're coming with? Because you're like, oh, fucker's so good. And I was like, first off, how about we figure out whether or not we get along, you piece of shit. And then I talking to different couples and stuff. I never really experienced this because Jamie's never wanted to go out on her own. But talking to friends that had, he was frustrated because his wife was, she's attractive. And then so she could just kind of like walk out on the porch and just be like, oh. And guys down the street would sort of like flock to her. Whereas he had to go out and like put out work and make sure his game was on point. And if he showed up to a date, he better have the right shirt. And like, for him, he was kind of like, it was a little frustrating because it's so easy for her, but a little bit of a struggle for me. And so I think one thing that I would tell people that are getting into this is that you should be very patient and slow moving to start with, because you have to understand what it is that you're looking for and then certain things that you'll tolerate. And like one of the things that I don't tolerate is disrespect towards either myself or my wife, because I'm not looking for her replacement. She's perfect.
Hey Brady, can you make that mating call once more, please? Oh, that's so great.
That'll be somebody's text message notification soon.
Okay, well, we'll make it a downloadable file. And you can all find that on saltysexcast.com. No, truly thank you all three of you, all four of you. Brady, for you joining too on Zoom. You usually don't join us on Zoom, but I knew you had some experience, and it's always fun to kind of hear from a mix of folks. And Jason, Maggie, and Brittany, thank you so much for your time really sharing this side of you all. We could probably sit here for another 3 hours if we could. So maybe we'll do another year after this. I'm just kidding. But Jason, congratulations on, again, that year journey and just being to where you are at, from that frustrated point to some success, to some letdown, to it sounds like you're just really happy and fulfilled right now and really enjoying the experience. So If anyone has any more questions, if they want to email us at saltysexcast@gmail.com, I'd be more than happy to forward them on to our poly friends, and we can see if we can keep that conversation going. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you want to become part of our Patreon community, you can hear our episodes early. We get together for live Q&As on Zoom. You get product, all sorts of fun things, being a Patreon, and that's at patreon.com/saltysexcast. Really helps support the podcast. We can stay ad-free because of our very generous patrons. I just want to thank all of them out there. And again, find us on saltysexcast.com. You can find all of our socials there. If you listen to this episode instead of watched it, you might not have realized who was talking at some point. So I suggest you rewatch it on YouTube. Like it's there for you. So anyway, see you all next week. I'll let you all say bye, and then we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
It was so nice.
Thank you for listening to the Salty Sex Cast. Ready for round 2? Find us on Facebook.